Hello, hello. Abraham, ganda. Good to see you. All right. The Southern California Poetry Festival here at Beyond Baroque. How are we feeling today? Happy Sunday. All right. Yeah, this is our first program of readings for the third day of the so-called Poetry Festival. My name is Ivan Salinas, Programs Manager here at Beyond Baroque, and I want to welcome you to Showcase of DSTL Arts and Four-Way Books. I do want to give a land acknowledgement. We are on unceded Tongva territory, and we acknowledge the wrong done to indigenous communities. But Beyond Baroque stands in solidarity with our indigenous brothers, sisters, and this is a space for community. And we stand against genocide and are committed to uplifting the stories, cultures of our indigenous brothers and sisters. Beyond Baroque has been around since 1968. We have a legacy of 56 years supporting writers and artists, and it's thanks to your support. And I'm very honored that today we are welcoming both of these organizations and presses that are very essential to the local community, not only of Venice and also Los Angeles, but California. And they are publishing new voices, underrepresented voices as well. And it's very important that we have that community represented in literature as well. So without further ado, we have 6 poets that you'll be hearing from today. 3 from DSTL Arts and 3 from Four-Way Books. And we are blessed to have the presence of the founder of DSTL Arts and a very good friend, Luis Antonio Pichardo, who could say a few words first about DSTL Arts and the poets that you'll be hearing from today. So please give him a warm welcome.
Right. I actually was not anticipating saying any words other than, just to say thank you. I want to obviously thank Beyond Baroque. I especially want to thank Ivan for reaching out and inviting DSTL Arts to be represented here as part of this poetry festival, which I think the more that we're able to celebrate our voices, specifically the voices of those who are historically marginalized, I think the stronger we are as a community. With everything that has happened, DSTL Arts over the last 12 years actually has been working very hard to try and empower and uplift our communities that are historically underserved. DSTL Arts, our mission is that we are a nonprofit arts mentorship organization that inspires, teaches, and hires. And the ways in which we go about doing that include publishing. Publishing is an important aspect of the writing process. It's an important and very valuable part to not just feeling good about your own writing, but also establishing credibility in the world of literature and arts. Whether we like it or not, this is a career, and that's what DSTL Arts is about. We're about empowering through workforce development, through artistic development, through creative development, and of course, the nurturing of the voices that already exist in our communities. So I'm very proud to have the three individuals who will be reading today representing DSTL Arts. Each one of them has published their chapbooks of poetry and a children's book in this past year. Some of these were the product of a couple of years. Some of them were the product of almost a decade. And the thing about each one of these individual writers and artists that are going to be representing DSTL Arts today is that they're part of our mentorship program, our poet artist development program, but they're part of our community in a much, much bigger way. They go beyond just what they do here with DSTL Arts. And with that, I'll be reading their bios, their brief bios here, and I believe after that, they will come up individually and present from their latest books. To start us off, we will have Jeongmin Jamie Choi, who is a Korean writer based in Tongva-land, also known as Los Angeles, California. She writes short stories, flash fiction, and poetry that attempt to capture a sense of magic, surreality, and horror to highlight the unseen and unheard, integrating optimism and harsh reality in new, exciting ways. In October of 2024, Jamie's first chapbook, Disappearing from View, was published by DSTL Arts. Following Jamie, yes, give Jamie a round of applause. Following Jamie will be Susan Chavez, or as we know her at DSTL Arts, Miss Susie, who is a warrior, survivor, mother, grandmother, poet, artist, and more. Living and thriving in Los Angeles, she is a great believer in celebration and finding one's bliss. That is what we discover in her poetry and art. In November of 2024, her first autobiographical children's book, Little Shoes, was published by DSTL Arts. Round of applause. And last but not least, born and raised in East Los, Dr. Rosie Ramos, EDD, MSW, has worked as a bilingual social worker and in the field of early education, serving Los Angeles, Riverside, and Orange counties. As an artist, Dr. Rosie has written plays addressing the war on drugs, domestic violence, date rape, anti-smoking, HIV/AIDS, and more. Poetry is a relatively new artistic journey for Dr. Rosie, and in April of 2024, National Poetry Month, she published her very first poetry chapbook, Don't Let Stress Keep You from Success, with DSTL Arts. Yeah. And with that, I'd like to cede the room, right? Cede the mic, pass it on to Jamie. It is all yours.
Oh my god. Hi everybody. I feel like I wore a jacket that's clattering a bit, but please ignore that. I have two pieces for you today. They're both flash fiction pieces, and one is maybe a little bit of a downer. The other one's a little more hopeful, so hopefully I can read them for you as well as I can. The first piece is called Watch, Watch, Watch. Okay. You have always wanted a series of events to happen to you, like some character in a multi-season television show. Your mundane life suddenly dragged into an elaborate plan that only has a little to do with you. Your escape from the clutches of perceived evil, your own heroic fall from grace, followed by a dramatic rise from that rock bottom, and finally, victory over the evil that had nothing and everything to do with you. The lull and release of tension when an arc is over, only hinting at the next potential issue at the end. What you've wanted is a well-placed plot. But what you realize now is that what you watch and what you feel are actually on either side of a one-way view mirror. There is an odd sense of disconnect between the program you watch and the camera that's switched on inside of your head. It becomes clear to you that your life would be a heavily edited comedy or an indie film, really trying to spell ennui in big letters. What the critics would call your agency, or lack thereof, takes the form of molasses. There is nothing written in stone, except for the very actions being taken at this exact moment. What you plan and what you actually experience differ so jarringly that it makes you want to cry. And you do. Then the camera rolls in your head again, a shot of you on the bathroom floor, crying to someone on the phone. It's comical how such gut-wrenching moments turn into framed shots, how your own life becomes immersed in the language of media. You watch yourself fall apart, take yourself apart, turn into nothing but a puddle, like a crumpled pile of clothes. You wonder if it will always be like this. Watching yourself in mild pity, from the viewpoint of a surveillance camera, watching yourself limply roll into dirt and dust on the floor. You see yourself crawl into the closet after some time, disappearing from view. Thank you for the applause. The next piece is called Time is Felt, Not Measured. Okay. Okay. Open up a bottle of Garnier Fructis shampoo, and I'm right there in the hallways of my school. Funny how memories like these filter it all for you, capture a long-lost moment that echoes as an ache in your chest. Is it longing, or is it loss? Was it really all that beautiful? Going back in the shoes of your younger self, it would not feel the same. Even if you could jump back in time as yourself, it is all the more likely that you would prefer smelling that fragrance of a memory secretly in the aisle of a CVS. Not recommended. Memories fade into blotted stains in your mind, distilling a feeling of what once was, not as it was. Filtered in sepia and blurred for your enjoyment now, for the you who is grown up and so different, yet still exactly the same. A moment that captures the you now and the you then. It is a blessing to be able to experience that feeling of traveling through time. Oh, how you have survived. You who trudged here to the present, day by day. It is the you in youth that chose to continue. It is the same you that marked the distance between you now and the you then, maybe even unwillingly. The waves of nostalgia mark again and again the immeasurable growth between these two selves in two different times. You would not be here in the now to indulge in the past should you not have gone through it. I inhale that fragrance, soapy clean, bubbly synthetic, and my heart aches, not for loss or longing, I realize, but for where I came from and where I am now. I am safe enough to indulge in that mixture of pain and joy safely in the comfort of the present. Nostalgia is a gift to yourself, a myriad of heartaches and joys, however small, that you can only enjoy because you have lived, because you are here.
Hi. Okay. Before I take us to the children's book that I just finished, I'm going to read one little poem that I did back in, I think I'm the one that takes the decade that he was talking about, the some of us. Yeah, that's me. So way back when, in 2017, I wrote this little poem that let me know, because I was processing stuff before we got to the book, writing it. I got to deal with this. That's the title. I'm forever from the hard town. If I'm going to get better, a transformational mantra must enter my hurt, wounded mind. My heart is sad and it feels bad. Just let go, girl. Please just let go. Let my heart and mind be healed. It's going to be better soon. As I release the painful fear, I won't feel the abyss so near. I will explore the world brand new, never to be afraid of you. So that was me getting ready to write the book. Okay, so this is Little Shoes. This is the title of my story. And I'm going to read you a passage from the beginning of the book and then one at the very end. I don't think it's going to be possible for me to really show you the pictures right now. This is the best I can do. But it's a children's book, and you can look at it afterwards. Feel free. The morning the day did come, I snapped my little red shoes on. Tucked safely next to my mom, we rode in the red car, and we traveled pretty far. I was only 4 on that day when the red car stopped in East LA. We were met with hugs and kisses. I was excited to play with my cousins all day. We wanted to go to the park, and yippee, our moms gave us the A-OK. We hunted and we searched for the perfect place to play. At the park, the dirt felt soft, the trees were puffy, and the bushes were scrawny. Everything was our choice. We could scream or scratch, or we could run and laugh. At the end of the day, after our fun and play, my cousin said, let's get some candy at the corner store. But I remembered my mother's words from before, don't leave the park. My cousins walked away. I felt afraid. I wanted to cry, but I stuffed the tears back in my eyes. Then up walked a man I did not know. He asked me for a little help to find his friend's house. He said, we won't go far. At first I felt no sense of fear. He looked just like my dad, brown skin, black hair, gray suit, long sleeve white shirt, a tie. He offered me a quarter. It was shiny to my eye. I made a mistake and thought he was a nice guy, but he wasn't, and he lied. He scared me so bad that it changed me, and it made me very sad. My cousins returned to the park, but they couldn't find me, so they went home without me. The man took me further away from the park. We arrived in a different neighborhood. I began to cry. Then I began to sob. My crying made the man so very mad that he began to dislike me. Because my tears made the man so mad, he forced me to cross the street and walk alone. He didn't want to be next to me, and that's what saved me. As I walked alone on the other side of the street, I saw a group of bigger boys happily walking towards me. I walked quickly towards them. I thought they could help me. I ran as fast as my feet could take me towards them. My face was full of mocos. The boys knew something was wrong. They all looked at me thoughtfully. Then one said, what's going on? I explained that the man took me, that I wanted my mother, and I was lost. Suddenly, the man was almost next to me. He tried to touch my arm. Like magic, the boys became men and knocked the man to the ground. They yelled at me to run. Go back to your mom. I ran to the corner and turned the right way and heard them yell again, go back to your mom. My eyes looked for everything I had seen earlier that day. The red flowers growing from coffee cans all over someone's porch. The clothesline covered in baby clothes. A yellow car parked too close to someone's front door. I told my feet to run like never before. Then I saw the police cars lined up at my auntie's door. The book goes on through the middle, and it tells what happened to me in my life, how it affected me. I started peeing in bed, I started sucking on my lip, it got huge for a few years, I had to have my mother sleep with me, all that kind of stuff. That's going in. So now we're going to move to the end of it, because I have 7 minutes with you. Then one day, when I was old and gray, I decided that being afraid was not my way. So I found a doctor who could help me, and she said, well, take it slow. Don't be scared. I know the way to go. I use little dolls to tell my story of that horrible day. I drew pictures to help take the pain away. I wrote poems so I could talk about it in another way. I learned to send the scary thoughts up to the sun to be transformed into something new. My doctor helped me learn to slay that no good day. In time, I wrote this book for me and you. It's because it was what I wanted to do. My healed life feels brand new. I know now all of us can heal from the blues. Painting pictures of my thoughts is what I like to do. It is my way of feeling brand new. This story and my paintings are my way of talking to you. It's my way of saying, I see you and I love you. Amen. The end. Amen. The end. Thank you very much. Dr. Rosie, thanks. Okay, babe, thank you.
Okay. I guess I'm the shortest of everyone here. So, here you go. All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Beyond Broke, thank you so much for having us here. And my name is Dr. Rosie Ramos. Can everyone say, hi, Dr. Rosie? Hi, Dr. Rosie. All righty. Okay, well, first of all, I just want to do a shout out to DSTL Arts for the continuing providing us, the artists, novices or experienced, a platform where we create and we share our voices. And here we are sharing our voices with you. So I just wanted to thank DSTL Arts for that. This is my first year here, working with DSTL Arts, and I'm just very proud to even establish and create my first book and publish it. So thank you. So I got together with a group of young people who shared their true heartfelt stories, personal stories, and that's captured in my chapbook. And it's through their stressors and their pain. And I took time to foster each of them with using their own voices to share without me being judgmental with whatever they had to say, and they trusted me. This is a personal project that's worth telling because of my professional background as a social worker and as an artist that has worked with communities that are historically marginalized. So the first poem and each of the stories, it's a story that they tell me. I interpret it through the poem, and so we work collaboratively, myself and these young people these young folks, and then with each of the poems that they read, then one of them created an image of how they felt. So this image here is this girl, and the story is inspired by Luce's story, and they're all pin names. Okay, they didn't want to be identified, and that's okay. And so she can't take it anymore. She lives at home with her mom, okay, and she can't just take it anymore. And it says, growing up, I often found myself stressed. Instead, I needed to leave my home. And it says, when I needed a break from my mom, a single mom who has worked very hard to make ends meet, but she didn't bother to listen to me. She didn't bother to hear what I had to say. And I have a voice, but she wouldn't hear me out. So most of my friends, parents valued my feelings. They believed and respected me, and I respected them too. They fed my heart with compassion, and they fed my heart with acceptance, and they also fed my stomach with great Mexican food. Now, as a young person trying to make it in life, it was hard for me to try to convey to my mom how important it was for her and I to talk, but she wouldn't listen. So I just wanted her to know that my voice mattered. And the poem goes like this. 17 years old, and now when she shared this with me, she was 21. But 17 years old, mature, school smart, limpia la casa, a single mom, so damn bossy. But I must do my homework. Yelling and telling and ignoring her squawking voice. No me respetas. Respect goes both ways, Mom. Listen to me, please. It always has to be done her way. Luz, hazme caso. My mom has empty feelings, no compassion. I seek out friends to fill my lonely void. Siempre en la calle. So bitchy. No real daughter-mother relationship. No love. Must be a hellhole to live here. I hate it. Mala hija mía. My friends' mothers, they hug me. They listen to me. But I can't expect my mom to love me and to listen to me because my mom's mother, she never showed her love. Mom, I love you. That's that one. And again, I'm reading these stories because that's how they were told to me. So these young kids, they were gutsy to even share this with me. So here's the next one. This one's called Fighting My Inner Demons. Okay, and the image is this here, right here. This is the image. Okay. All right, this one is about, I'm the youngest of 5 brothers. When I was in high school, my mom passed away from fucking cancer. My alcoholic dad couldn't deal with it, so he split. He took off. I was only fucking 17 years old and that alcoholic asshole abandoned me. If the roles were reversed, my mom would have never abandoned me. Now I'm 25 and I'm living with my aunt. She's like my second mom, a sweet and loving person who closely resembles my mom's looks and her manners, especially when she yells at me. I have friends who we all hang out together, and they tell me that I'm the life of the party. But how do they fucking know we're all fucked up at the same time? You know, last year, I overdosed on fentanyl, and my aunt found me unconscious on the kitchen floor and called 911. I hate to see my aunt crying and praying for me and begging me to stop using. And I tell her, Dia, I know what I'm doing. I'll stop when I need to. A couple of my friends also OD'd, but they didn't make it. They died, and that's pretty fucked up. I think of them all the time. Then I think about my aunt. It's lonely. It's a lonely world when you're addicted. And the poem goes like this, my interpretation. Drinking, drugs, and partying is dope. I feel fucking free when I'm high. Getting wasted and forgetting me is my escape. So fuck off and let me glide down that so-called dangerous slope. We all suffer family and friend losses. So what's so different of how I cope with this shit? I'm angry, I use. I'm lost, I use. I'm happy, and I use. I'm stressed, and I use. I'm pissed, and I use. My inner demons, their voices, have their fucking way of forcing me to carry my life crosses. To OD and make it back was a fucking miracle. I'm told that I'm a broken person with skeletons in my closet. Using is my way of coping, relaxing, and fighting off my demons. You know, I'm getting tired of coming down from my highs and feeling fucking miserable. I know that it's time for me to get clean. This time to fight my demons. Thank you. Did it. It's my first performance.
All right, round of applause for the DSTL Arts. Thank you all for sharing your poetry with us. Next up are three poets from Four-Way Books. And just want to say a few words about the press. Four-Way Books is dedicated to producing and promoting excellent literary publications. We believe that the work of writers brings good to the world, understanding, empathy, curiosity, wisdom, and we strive to connect writers and readers to make each writer's life more meaningful by bringing validation to the artist and important, pioneering, virtuosic work to wide public attention, as well as to the communities each book most seeks and serves. And to fulfill that mission, we have Blas Falconer, Louise Matthias, and Carol Moldaw, who will be sharing some of their poetry from very, very new collections. All of the books that you see in the podium here are on sale at our bookstore right across the hall. And I'm sure all of our authors will be happy to sign. So first up, we'll have Blas Falconer. is the author of Forgive the Body, This Failure, The Founding Wheel, and A Question of Gravity and Light, as well as co-editor of 2 anthologies, Mentor and Muse, Essays from Poets to Poets, and The Other Latine, Writing Against the Singular Identity. The recipient of a poetry fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts and a Maureen Egan Writers Exchange Award from Poets and Writers. He teaches in San Diego State University's MFA program and is the editor-in-chief at Poetry International Online. Louise Matthias was born in Bedford, England, and grew up in England and Los Angeles. She's the author of 2 full-length collections of poetry, Lark Apprentice and The Traps, as well as a chapbook, Above All Else, The Trembling Resembles a Forest, which won the Burnside Review Chapbook Contest. For the past 15 years, she has resided in Joshua Tree, California. And Carol Moldaw is the author of 6 previous books of poetry, including The Lighting Field and Through the Window, also translated into Turkish and published in a bilingual edition in Istanbul. She's received a Merwin Conservancy Artist Residency, a National Endowment for the Arts Creative Writing Fellowship, a few others, and her poems, essays, and reviews have appeared widely in the American Poetry Review, the New York Review of Books, New Yorker, among others, as well as anthologies including Western Wind, An Introduction to Poetry and Contemporary Literary Criticism. A volume of her selected poems translated into Chinese is forthcoming from Wanxi Normal University Press in Beijing in 2025. So to start us off, I'll pass the mic to Blas Falconer. All right.
Hello. Thanks, DSTL Arts. That was a great reading. We're really happy to be joining you today from 4 Way Books. It's so great to be here in this space. I'm going to be reading from 3 poems from my newest collection called Rara Avis. Let me get started. I do mention a town, Salinas, but that is not Salinas, California. It's Salinas, Puerto Rico. So, ¿Qué significa? I thought it'd be cooler here in late June, but all night I'm kicking off the sheets and pulling them back over my body in the stillness of my room, until I remember suddenly those summers as a boy, lying in the twin bed with you. That was before the highway, when one needed to drive up and down the mountains to get from one side of the island to the other, and Salinas, where the fishing nets hung to dry in branches along the shore, and we swam in a clearing among the mangroves or rocked in a hammock behind the house where my mother and your father were born, still seemed untouched by America. Sometimes at the bakery, or with the woman who sold lottery tickets outside the restaurant, or as the men drove us in the back of their trucks past the sugarcane fields, not understanding a word or turn of phrase, a joke someone made, I'd ask, ¿Qué significa? But it was already over or too hard to explain. You'd say, I grew homesick for English. One summer at the movies, you cried so hard it scared me, the screen lighting your wet face. One summer, sprawled out on the floor in front of the TV in our bathing suits, we began to wrestle, laughing until our hands, then our mouths, moved across our bodies, driven by a force we let guide us. Then someone stopped, and we lay in the sunlit room, breathing hard. Someone must have gotten up and walked away. Someone must have made small talk until we could pretend it never happened. Quiero verte, you said on the phone years later, both of us now with children of our own. And when I made it back one day to the island, I drove to your house knocking on the large door at the agreed-upon time, but no one answered. The flamboyant trees were in bloom, their bright red blossoms scattered on the street, and it didn't take long to get back to my hotel. But I got lost. I'd never been to that part of the city, and so much had changed. Thanks. 36. This was originally written for a project called Dear America, and it was hosted by an online magazine called Terrain. So you can hear a bunch of other poems that are kind of written in a similar vein, and what Terrain did was invite writers to respond to America, and this was in 2016, so you can kind of imagine what we were all thinking about at the time. Seems appropriate to read now again. It's now called Fatherland. The heat not having broken all month long, we stood in line and watched a boy race down the park's tallest slide, drop into the shallow pool below, from which he rose renewed, a look of joy, relief across his face. My son held my hand and, looking up, judged how long it'd take to reach the top of the stairs. In front of us, the man, a head taller, 50 pounds at least, more than I, wore red trunks, his hair dark brown, short. I saw the swastika first, white power inked across his back, the scene. Skeletons climbed his spine above a sea of flames. I felt each breakable bone in my boy's hand, he who days before asked to live with us forever. Idiot, my mother called me once, because you think everyone is good. The man looked across the park at no one, younger than I'd have thought, and when the line, as if with one mind, began to move again, he stepped forward, the foot or two between us, perilous, uncrossable. And here's my last one. It's called Legacy, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but it does try and capture that feeling when maybe the last of your relatives from your mother's homeland start to pass on, and you feel the kind of connection to this place grow dimmer. Legacy. Nearly all my mother deemed worth keeping until now makes its way across a sea, a continent, the piano, the brass bed, the painting of horses hung in the hallway of her mother's house. A tree grew in the center of the yard, she said once. Almendras. Imagine it, the glass bowl too, so small, what could it hold? Wrapped in tissue to travel a century, a language, boxed with whatever else she can't take, coming to break me faster. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Louise. Very grateful to be here. I loved hearing from DSTL Arts. Is it Susie? Your poem, what was it called? Now I Have to Deal with This? I feel like that could be the title of all my poems. Now I have to deal with this. So I'm going to be reading from What If the Invader is Beautiful, which is just out from Four Way Books. And just by way of introduction, the book is about a lot of things, but I'm going to read from the first section, which is primarily about the kind of fallout of a very sort of emotionally abusive, destructive love affair that I was in for a long time. Fortunately, that's very much in the rearview mirror, but it was a lot to, deal with. So a lot of it came out in the poems. 3 types of mimicry. I pictured butterflies each time the boy was hurting me. I say boy, though he was north of 40. I say hurt because for years I spoke in pretty code. There are no butterflies on Mars, and here on Earth, Mojavia convertiflora dupes the bees because she has to. As when I told the boy he made me come, because the other path was frozen lakes and crosshairs. What color are my eyes? I asked his back, a dense arithmetic of bramble, fear, and birdsong. In the poem No One Knows Is About Me, I'm pretty much prey. Nightjars depend on their cryptic coloration. Almost, he said, like a blonde peeing in a field of goldenrod. What's a leg when you're caught in a trap? Moonflowers shriek from the side of the road. Lord, let me die in a God-forsaken town, not even the air to notice. Thank you. Dom. In a country where roses grew well, I lost it all. My will to be his glittering acquisition, what stars are for. Dopamine, synapse, history, fail. Someday, I'll call this what it is. Shame is a dove, her soft side filled with maggots. I'll end with this one, Stole. No longer embroidered with my previous owner's initials. Who bleats for me inside his omened sleep, whose small emergency grows. In the hills behind the DMV, 2 ponies fucking in the lupin. I know, you know, I paid my fee. I'm nobody's pony now. Thank you.
Well, it's such a pleasure to be here reading with poets from DSTL Art and Four Way, my press. And so thank you, everyone at Beyond Baroque, and you for coming. One of the things I love about poetry is how individual voices come through so clearly. And I think, today I felt that very much. So I'm going to read from my new book, Go Figure, and I thought I'd start with the title poem. Is the sound right? It's not, okay. It makes it easier to get this poem if you know that it begins with a description of a temple in India, Khajuraho, which is a World Heritage Site. And that temple, the outside, the facade is covered top to bottom with erotic sculpture. And when I was writing Go Figure, I was thinking a lot about figuration and also the quizzical sense of go figure. So anyway, Go Figure. In her and her and her I saw myself, in carved sandstone, a voluptuary, my neck coiled to face my back twisted to pinch and raise for inspection a small patch of almost out-of-reach skin. One foot planted, the other on toe, my toes on a narrow ledge high up the temple's facade. I'm unfazed by gaze of mason, acolyte, or tourist. And in her, also slightly coiled, rising out of the bath under a painter's gaze, I saw myself stepping over the tub's rim, sideways into the easel like a towel. You call me by the painter's name, a Lautrec, a Degas. Myself in veined marble, my towel now draped like a veil, or etched in a notched crosshatch illusion of fishnets. Hewn in block, empaneled in canvas, versions sketched, filmed, celluloid, digitized. Countless iterations find me poised as if alone at the mirror, examining eye, lip, brow, brush and palette in hand. The mirror goes back to grit, a sand that can't reflect but absorbs the noon sun I peer up into, as into a museum's directed and calculated light, as into a church's perpetual dusk, cinema's blackout velvet. Thank you. And this next poem is called Arthritis. Save your hands, my mother says, seeing me untwist a jar's tight cap, just the way she used to tell me not to let boys fool around or feel my breasts. Keep them fresh for marriage, as if they were actual fruit. I scoffed to think they could bruise, scuff, soften, rot, wither. I look down now at my knuckly thumbs, my index finger permanently askew in the same classic crook as hers, called a swan's neck, as if snapped, it's that pronounced. Even as I type, wondering how long I'll be able to, each joint in my left hand needing to be hoisted, prodded into place, one knuckle like a clock style clicking as it's turned to open, bend, or unbend. I balk at the idea that we can overuse ourselves, must parcel out and pace our energies so as not to run out of any necessary component while still alive. The definition of necessary, necessarily suffering change over time. The only certainty is uncertainty I thought I knew, so ignored whatever she said about boys and sex, her version of a story, never mine. It made me laugh, the way she made up traditions, that we didn't kiss boys until a certain age, we didn't fool around. What we? What part of me was she? No part I could put my finger on. How odd then, one day, to find her half napping in her room, talking first to herself and then to me about a boy she used to know, her friend's brother, who she kissed, she said, just because he wanted her to. Now why would I do that, she mused, distraught anew and so freshly stung by the self-betrayal. I reached across the gulf my father left, to her side of their bed, and stroked my future hand. I think I'll read one last poem, and it's called Richter Scale. It seems timely. If this were a crowd-sourced blueprint for the resistance, it would tell you what action to take. But it won't, it can't, isn't, I'm afraid, built that way. It wants instead to daydream, to remember a sunset when a bevy of deer vogued in the meadow, all looking up at the same time while grazing, all five tilting their heads at the same angle, their tails held up like rattles about to twitch. I scroll news the way my father followed stocks, sensitive to the smallest tremor. A seismograph, a lie detector needle, my pen, its doodles on the scratch pad. In slow motion, who can tell which way things will fall? History in real time. The deer scatter when I blink. Thank you.
Yeah, let's keep it going for all of our poets. Silco Showcase. All right. This was a great start to our third and final day of the festival. Coming up, we're going to have a 10-minute break, and you can see the Poetry Lounge and Writ Large projects here with Chiwan Choi, Seon Ryu, Soul Stuff, and a few more. Outside, we have some snacks and a beautiful view in our garden. And if you stick around, also at 3 p.m., there'll be a lunch and a safe place for youth garden and some pizza. So for now, feel free to check out our bookstore as well. And I'm sure all our authors are happy to sign. Thank you.